This is the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Wheel of Time, Episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon.
What's wrong?
I found the dragon.
The girl from the Two Rivers?
Perhaps. It's complicated. I found 5 potential dragons in the same village.
5?
But only 4 the right age. And Nynaeve's too old. But how can we discount her power? I don't know. Every town has a different legend about where the dragon will be reborn, how they will appear to us, the way in which they'll break or save the world.
Our prophecies are clear.
They're 3,000-year-old prophecies. They've been translated again and again by hundreds of different Aes Sedai. From a gleeman, I heard the tale of a many-headed dragon.
The last dragon was one man. Why would the wheel split the dragon's soul into many?
Back, fellow wheelies. This is our Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We are on the 6th episode of the Wheel of Time, talking about the Flame of Tar Valon. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow wheelies. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out this trio of potential Dragon Reborns, I am Chris.
Excellent. Back with another podcast, the second one of the week this week, talking about the Wheel of Time, after our Hawkeye podcast. And we're almost at the end of both series at the moment.
I know. Back at it like a bad habit.
Yeah. It's mad to think we have 2 more episodes of Wheel of Time to go and just 2 more episodes of Hawkeye to go as well.
Yes, to round out the year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's the end of the year is fast approaching.
Yes.
Please stop. I want to slow down. I slightly too much to do between now and New Year's.
Yes, I know.
Exactly.
People arranging meetings and work and going, that like half the company are on holiday from like next week. That's lots of fun. And we've still got lots to cover on those 4 episodes we're covering before the end of the year. Thanks to all of our fellow wheelies who've been sending me their well wishes after my voice was gone last week. So great to say I'm not feeling as bad, and my voice is back now, which is good. So back to normal.
It is good. It's so good we actually let him take the lead today.
Exactly.
Because otherwise we're just going to keep putting him in the closet.
I was laughing last week. I said I wasn't going to talk very much, and then Chris went, "So, what do you think of the entire show so far, Derek? Go." So I am going to talk today, and hopefully that means I won't talk much. Thanks so much to all of our fellow Willies for joining us for the podcast for this show. But if you do want to subscribe to all of our podcast coverage, you can go and find us on tvpodcastindustries.com. Loads of ways to subscribe over there. You can just search TV Podcast Industries as well on any of your favorite podcast players. We should be on any of them. If we're not, let me know. You can let me know by emailing me to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can share any thoughts on the series that we're covering as well. And you can also come over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where you can share your thoughts about each of the episodes that we're covering. I put up a spoiler post before the episodes go out, so you can share spoiler-filled thoughts with all of your fellow wheelies.
And if you would like to support us as a nice end of year gift, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where for just a single solitary Wheel of Time Tar Valon $, I'm assuming they use dollars there.
I don't think they're connected to the
Gold
US
dollar,
monetary
how there
system.
you go. You can support us there, or don't forget, you can also head on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where for a single one-off support donation.
Yeah. Fort Knox will be on to the Aes Sedai just to make sure that their inflationary budget is all in order.
Oh my god, we're getting into the Phantom Menace areas here, where the next season is just like budgetary infrastructure in Tar Valon.
And wasn't it just coppers? Isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's called
coppers.
Yeah.
Coppers, gold, silver.
Excellent, excellent. We have added a new benefit over on our Patreon as well. If you support at $12 per month, you'll be able to get your hands on a TV Podcast Industries mug.
Whoop, whoop.
I know.
See that over there.
Woo!
So thanks to everybody that's been supporting us. over on Patreon and on Buy Me a Coffee, and also all of those of you that have been supporting us by sharing the podcast and sending your feedback as well. Really love that kind of support too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Let's get into our discussion about Wheel of Time, Episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon. The showrunner for this show is Rafe Lee Judkins, based on the book series written by Robert Jordan. This episode was written by Justine Juel Gillmer, an Australian writer who wrote episodes of TV shows like The 100 and Into the Badlands, and got a big start to her career with 2 episodes of Home and Away.
Excellent stuff.
Home and away with you each day.
Home and
Sorry,
Away
what was
and
it?
Neighbours have got a lot of good stuff to answer for. They have given us so much good stuff.
They also have a lot of bad stuff, but we'll call it good because they definitely did give us Chris Hemsworth. So
And
like
Kylie.
Thor.
They gave
And
us Kylie.
Kylie, that is true, but mostly Chris
Jason.
Hemsworth. Oh my god, I should be so lucky not to remember that.
Guy Pearce too.
Guy Pearce.
What?
indeed.
Oscar-winning
Yeah.
actor Guy
Yeah.
Pearce, yeah.
Oh wow.
Lots and lots of people came from Home and Away and Neighbours.
Definitely.
Including Justine Joel Gilmer. So there
Excellent
you go.
stuff.
you go.
Love it.
And interestingly, just at a side here from a writer's perspective, I was reading Russell T Davies was talking about his career over the last 30 years and all the shows that he's been involved in, and he came from soap operas. He started out writing soap operas, and he said it was the greatest training for him because soap operas, while not tended to be seen as the greatest drama stories, they are written on a really short timeline, and you have to pay attention to all of your characters. So the training that you get from soap opera writing apparently is second to none.
Yeah, it's
can
why
well
telenovelas
imagine,
are one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally wham, bam, snap. Now, they've done every story under the sun. My
Multiple
brother's
times.
sisters, my twins' brother's uncle's ex. And you're like, wait, it works out. I'll allow it.
But you've got to love those shows, though. I do have fond memories of all those kind of shows at uni.
Yeah, of course.
Bold and the Beautiful, Dynasty,
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Must have had access to many more American shows than I had at the time. I didn't watch any of
That
those.
was the college.
He had Fair City.
Excellent. Great to have Justine on board as the writer for this episode. The director of the episode was Salli Richardson-Whitfield. She directed episode 5 as well. I did mention her credits back in episode 5, so I won't go to those again on this episode. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Wheel of Time episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon?
Sure. After a fishing trip with her father, a young girl named Siuan Sanche, and whose control of the One Power is getting stronger and stronger each day, must leave for Tar Valon after the destruction of her home. Many years later, the once young girl is now the Amyrlin Seat, who presides over the White Tower and the stronghold of the Aes Sedai. Before her are the Aes Sedai, Liandrin, Alana, and Moraine, and they must answer for their preemptive actions against the false dragon and denying the Amyrlin Seat its judgment. It is Moraine who must face the consequences of their actions and receive the punishment of the Amyrlin Seat. As Moraine awaits her fate, her spy network has informed her of Rand and Matt's whereabouts. As Matt's condition deteriorates, Rand is concerned at the arrival of Moraine and Lan to the inn, believing that she will gentle Matt. But Moraine saves him, extracting the darkness from within him that he picked up from Shador Lagoth, locking it away in the ruby-hilted dagger. That evening, as the Amyrlin Seat decides on Moraine's punishment, she is visited by Moraine, and the two friends and lovers decide together on the punishment that Moraine will herself receive. Banishment. The following day, with Egwene and Perrin safely at Tar Valon, Moraine introduces Egwene and Nynaeve to the most powerful woman in the world, Siuan Sanche, who reveals their importance to destroying the still weakened Dark One at the Eye of the World. At the White Tower, the Amyrlin Seat issues its judgment on Moraine. Banished from Tar Valon, Moraine meets up with Lan, the Two River Companions, and Loial at a waygate, an ancient way outside of space and time. Their destination is to the Eye of the World, where Moraine hopes to stop the Dark One with the help of her companions. But as the waygate begins to close behind them, one of the companions has chosen to remain behind.
Excellent. Thanks, John. properly on the big journey now, before even the decision is made as to who's the dragon in this episode. I think this episode does introduce us to this big concept of the Amyrlin Seat and what it is and who it is. And so let's start there with our spokes of the wheel. Let's start with our spoke number one, the Amyrlin Seat and Moraine, and kind of talk about some of the machinations that are going on in the White Tower and how the Amyrlin Seat sits within this, if a seat can sit.
It can. It is both an title and an actual seat.
I do like that that Nynaeve points that out, doesn't she? Or Egwene points that out. That isn't it a bit confusing to have the seat and the person sitting in it named the same thing?
Exactly.
No, but it's the Amyrlin Seat's Amyrlin. It's the Amyrlin Seat's Amyrlin Seat. Yeah. See, that's perfectly reasonable.
I guess because it's a title for life, as Siuan explains, that she will carry this title forever for her entire life. I guess it's not going to be that confusing because it's her seat. It's the place that she sits. So, so let's talk a little bit about this character.
Daughter of fisherman.
Yeah, I really like that opening scene where we have the introduction of her as a young girl, that she is going through the same kinds of things that all the people who are able to use powers and able to weave within this world seem to have gone through. That the idea of the persecution that they have, the idea that they have to keep the magic hidden from people that may not necessarily like magic users in their midst. I thought was quite interesting. The fact that her father's really worried about her being caught, and rightly so. When they return home, the house has been burnt down, and that little dragon tear symbol once again is marked on the side of their
dragon's fang. Dragon's mark.
The one. Yeah.
Yes, the apostrophe.
Yes, that's
that too.
The fat apostrophe.
Yeah. It still hasn't been explained in the show, though.
Which is a bit strange.
Feels like it's something that does need to be explained on the show for people who haven't read the book, because that's why I confused it as Dragon's Tear, because we haven't heard any explanation for it at all. Just this symbol that appears everywhere.
Definitely, and considering the young girl becomes the Amyrlin Seat, and the only other times we've seen it is associated with goats massacred by whether it was the Trollocs or the Fade or one of the other dark spawn, or the blood coming out of the Trolloc that Nynaeve killed in the spiritual pool back at Two Rivers, where even the blood forms a fat apostrophe as it sort of spills out into the water. So it at this moment in time, it's associated with the Dark Spawn and the Dark One, and here we have it connected to the Amyrlin Seat, basically at this moment in time. Yeah,
I'll throw one extra one in there for you. The goat-shaped marking in the first episode, we also speculated that could have been from a dark friend bringing them to the town, so it may not just be the Dark Ones, may also be their the symbol of the Dark Friends. So that's who I was thinking could have burnt down this house, with people in the village who are aligned with the dark side.
But exactly, it could be that as well, for sure. Yeah.
The other major option, and we can talk more about it, is also it's that marking. It's the stay away. Remember, you would hear in history class how they would mark a plague house.
Yeah.
Stay away. So this we have seen is kind of, to a degree, a marking of the Dark One. So we see that based on Siuan saying, or her dad saying, you can't let people see you channel. You have to, they won't understand. And this is a few years ago. Yeah. And it's a rural fishing village, we can assume. They're basically, the persecution is they're burning down her house because they've seen her use the power.
Right.
They view magic. She is evil incarnate. Yeah. She is a friend of the Dark One.
Yeah.
So it is,
or they think she is, at least.
So exactly. They assume because you are different.
Yeah.
Therefore, you are bad.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. We kind of, after the credits, I guess, or after the opening credits, then we do see a grown-up version of Siuan, who is now the Amyrlin Seat. By the way, only when putting together the notes for the episode did I realize how awkwardly spelt Amyrlin Seat is. Wow.
Yeah.
I would not have pronounced it that way if I was reading it in the book at all.
Yep. Welcome to everything I've been saying for, even Siuan, I have not been calling her that for years because it's just, again, young Chris didn't read the back appendix of the book, so young Chris just made a pronunciation in his head.
Now, in fairness, we do get two people who call her by her first name in the show. We get her father, who pronounced it much more like Swan.
Yeah.
And we do get Moraine, who pronounces it a bit more like Siuan.
I just spelt it like Swan.
Yeah.
Because that was my shorthand for it, was Swan.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a swan, I guess.
I guess so.
She was the ugly duckling who became a swan.
Wow, yes.
But her
Very powerful swan.
Yes.
But her first order of business is presiding over the false dragon and what all the Aes Sedai have done to him. Effectively, they've gentled him, they paraded him through the streets, brought him to the White Tower, and Logain Albar is brought directly in front of her. And I like that automatically she's kind of going, I don't even know why he's in front of me now, because he's already been gentled. Everything's been done. There's nothing left for me to do here, effectively. I can pass judgment on what's going to happen to him for the rest of his life, but I should have been consulted beforehand. I should have been given the opportunity to pass judgment on him. You all know the rules, and everybody should know the rules that should have been followed. Seems angry at our red, green, and blue Aes Sedais for following what they thought was the right thing to do on the road.
This is the thing. They knew they were not allowed. There was strict orders from before that the Andrin had been known to, or suspected of gentling males, along with her red sisters, across the world, and that this Logain had to be seen to be brought in front of the Amyrlin and presided and judged accordingly.
Yeah. And
that there's huge political machinations. So we're starting to get into the Game of Thrones aspect of it, where it's beyond 5 simple sheep herders potentially being the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
It is now into, there is a full, there's empires out here that we start getting into, and how these empires interact, and the royal families, and the blood, and the White Cloaks versus the Flame of the Tar Valon. And all these bits. And we do know Logain had the Gildan Empire, the royalty, the king, as one of his followers. He had that army with him. So it's suddenly beyond just gentling a stable boy who started a channel.
Yeah.
It's now you're gentling someone who has the backing of a king and an empire behind him, or at least a country behind him. And it's becoming political. And we hear this from Siuan later as well, when she's talking about this, this is a mess up, but staying the kind of where the scene that we're talking about. I really enjoy this because it's the puppet master and the strings start to you start to see why people are so, or even Tom says, don't trust the Aes Sedai, because we already know that you can see how they are carefully managing their words and mixing words and not lying, but just not telling the truth.
Well, that's it. And it's the politics happening in the White Tower as much as the wider world, and how they both intersect. And, we hear this with the Moraine's boss, effectively, the head of the Blue Azure, saying, seeing a green defend a red Aes Sedai, and then yourself, unheard of, as well as, finding out that Siuan's is a former Blue as well. So, whatever resentment or feelings that is within the different orders of the Aes Sedai. And so all of this, and at this moment, it's all fairly contained, though. I mean, in that sense, the sort of broader context of how this may interact with the different kingdoms within this world, as well as within the White Tower, is kind of just hinted at here. But it is really, really nice to see, for sure. I mean, in particular, I really love Moraine's sort of acid comeback at Liandrin, about the man that she is actually with, and keeps hidden from her sisters, in the Red Asia. So,
because none of them are supposed to like men, none of them are supposed to be with any men. So that'd be a massive, again, that is the political machinations that are going on, especially for the Blues. They seem to have all of that spy network picking up the knowledge that they need to go against their rivals. But it's not just the Blues is what we're finding out here. Every single sect of the Aes Sedai basically seems to have their own designs on what way they'll deal with the other ones. Some probably are much more supportive. The Yellows, for example, are the healers, so they're probably sticking out of the politics side. But it seems like the Red and Blues certainly are up against each other and wanting to maintain that power balance, or change it completely.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's to the point that by them acting the way they did, they've undermined the Amyrlin Seat, because they are the ones that have passed the judgment, not the Amyrlin Seat. And certainly for, as Chris said, for a false dragon nonetheless, but a false dragon that has managed to be immensely powerful, and has also brought, kings and other followers with him, then you can see why she is adamant that they need to answer for this, the three of them, as the three leads of those different Asia. So this is really, really interesting, to me. I also really like the fact that Legane, Ablar has some fight in him here. You know, he has been gentled, and ultimately it kind of does waste away quite quickly when she explains that he's going to serve as an example and live out his days watched and studied until he is consumed by the madness. But I do kind of like that he showed some fight at the start, and that was kind of quite a nice little touch. As I say, even though it fades away very quickly when faced with the Amyrlin Seat, I think.
Yeah, no, this is great, because we did hear from Tom when he's speaking to Rand about once you're gentled, you start to lose all will completely. You just want to give up until the point. And the bit I loved is you think there is this fight in Loghain. It's just because he wants to be killed.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't want to go on. And this is a punishment worse than death. I'm hoping they explain some of these bits more. But some of the details around what happens when you channel is and I think Moraine slightly touches on it with Egwene, is that it's so sweet. It's addictive to channel, to have that power. And that is true on both sides.
Right.
So think of it as like, and when I say Moraine touched on it, it's like, don't channel too much. Don't try and pull in too much power to take it all in. When she talks about the initial glow and she's initially checking with Egwene.
Right.
But essentially it's that. It's this sweetness. And imagine you've had the sweetest meal in your life and then you're told you will never get it again.
Yeah. And
that's why, like, they're like, I just want to die. Forget about it. I'm done.
Yeah.
And he's just so bullish. And he's like, yeah. I'm going to, like, he goes up again until she just completes her sentence. And the performance in this from all sides, especially just in this overall scene between the Aja and the Amyrlin and then Loghain and the Amyrlin, I was just riveted.
Yeah.
Especially just the design of the people, the places, the visualization, and then just the script, the narrative itself. Just, it all came together and coalesced just beautifully in that, 10 minutes?
Yeah, it really did. And I think even the sense just from within that chamber of, why, say, like Tom is wary of the Aes Sedai, and other people are as well. Just the fact that the Amyrlin Seat reiterates, the reason why you shield and then you gentle and death is the last resort and these rules are there to be followed is that our laws don't exist to protect our lives, which the defense of Liandrin, Moraine, as they all agree, but they're there to protect the people from the Aes Sedai in terms of the potential that they wield with the one power. So that as well, I thought was really nice. And of course, just the big political assertions being made by Liandril around, maybe the Amyrlin Seat doesn't want to question Moiraine as the mother was once blue herself. That's pretty open and blatant assertion as to that relationship and the potential for favoritism. It's also that she does throw the whole Nynaeve under the bus, really. You get the sense, at least in that moment, obviously things develop within this episode where that's less of a problem, but at least publicly, at this moment, this is a real kind of a big play, actually, by Liandrin.
It certainly is. Remind me again, by the end of the episode, who has gotten the punishment for what happened to Logain Elbar?
Yeah, exactly.
The only person is Moiraine. So does that now, in the mind of Liandrin, does that make her feel like she has achieved her goal? Because she got away scot-free. And effectively, she is the one that carried out that punishment, along with her sisters who channeled through her. Yeah. But she was the instigator. She's the one that wanted to do it the whole time, carried it out, and then the punishment, in inverted commas, was passed on to Moiraine. So, it is interesting, and this is the kind of, the politics and the machinations that are going on in the White Tower. This is why this scene is so interesting, why it opens up the world in its own way. Having scenes like this is really important in the show at this stage, because as you say, Chris, it could end up being just one tagline of who's the dragon, and then that's it. That's the whole story, until you have things like this episode or last episode expanding the world. You don't get the idea that this could possibly go on for 13 seasons or 7 seasons of the show and 15 books, One question I have as well from Logain, the kind of bomb that he drops in front of the Aes Sedai, the kind of potential lie that he puts in front of them all, is that the further they go away from the White Tower, the less power that they have.
Yes.
I was wondering, is that to sow some division amongst themselves, or sow some kind of attack their confidence a bit, in a way? Because we hear that Moiraine has been away for multiple years at a time, but it feels like, from the criticism she gets from everybody around her, she's the only one that travels far and wide from the White Tower. And I wonder, is he trying to sow a little fear or doubt within the Aes Sedai and try and keep them there, so that the armies that are outside, who are up against the Aes Sedai, the people who are following him, may have time to build up their armies without interference from the Aes Sedai.
Yeah. No, it's 100%. It's the, what if you're told that you believe you are one of the main centers of the world, and that your power and influence is prophetic. It is like godly. It's sent from the heavens because you control the power. And then you're told, actually, do you know what? The further you go away from this little city, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is, again, also what we hear about Moiraine being consistently gone. We heard this in the last episode. She doesn't understand what's happening. The Red's play is going to win. The Red is going to be bolstered because they've been playing this long political game for a while against Siuan, and it is going to show her that potentially that the Reds are right and she was wrong, and because Moiraine leaves. And the only other people leaving actively are the Reds, and they go not for as long as Moiraine. They find a man, they gentle him and bring him back, or kill him there and then. Yeah. So there's a few others, but a majority do. We learn more. The majority do stay closer to the tower because that's where they're brought up. Yeah, yeah. And I suppose it kind of leading into that, and the Reds thinking they're winning the battle against the Amyrlin Seat and Siuan. We find out in this episode that there's a very close relationship between Siuan and Moiraine. They are lovers. They have been together for many years. It seems like Lan's completely in on the on this relationship. He's guarding the door to make sure nobody finds out the information that the two of them are connected. But it seems like the Reds feel like they're winning in this power struggle that's going on, but they're fighting against the Amyrlin Seat, who clearly knows exactly what's going on with Moiraine. It's a plan between the two of them. Yes.
To find the reborn dragon. They're the only two people that know about this plan, and they're in a relationship. So while the Reds think they're getting one over on the Blues, they think they're getting one over on Moiraine, in fact, they don't know the whole story, and it feels like they're just going to be hitting a brick wall with the Amyrlin Seat from now on. She's just going to be trying to block them until Moiraine can accomplish her task or the goal that she's going after.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's what I loved about this kind of next phase, just showing that relationship, because ultimately the punishment is of their design and their choosing to fulfill the goals. They are the two that saw this prophecy. They are the two that have moved to try and prevent and find the potential dragons in order to either use, well, ultimately, you know, preferred choice to use them to destroy the Dark One, that they don't effectively turn to side with the Dark One. I mean, you know, Moiraine is quite chilling. She will kill them. She effectively says that she will kill them if it fails. You know, she won't let the Dark One get their hand on to any of these companions, these 5 companions. So yes, you know, this is pretty serious, because what's nice in this episode is you have that moment between the Amyrlin Seat and Moiraine in this intimate moment. By the way, which I loved the route by which she got there, because I was wondering why they were focusing on that ornate picture the episode before. I thought that was just really, really cool. But, you know, in this you have Moiraine, the contrast is that you have Moiraine, you know, saving other members of this group from the 2 rivers, and giving a bit of a put down to Nynaeve as well in doing it. You know, trying to position herself as their ally, but at the same time here being quite clear that she also is not here for friendship. She has this mission to do, and if that means they must die, that will happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is really, like, adds just a great different aspect here for me. Yeah.
No, huge. They missed a beat here. So this was my one piece. I'm going to ask you guys first, and then I'm going to tell you what they should have said and done. And then just to make, because it needs to be explained and it hasn't been explained. What do you think happened, or how do Moiraine and Siuan meet?
I think I took it like the Harry Potter had probably stolen this idea of moving through paintings and moving through tunnels between areas, or between magical areas, I suppose. So that's the way I took it. Is that different to the way it was in the book?
John?
Yeah, I took it similar way. I just assumed they were using physical objects to move through like a gateway or some portal. I guess with the bright white light, it felt like they were using the weave, even though it wasn't really identified. It didn't seem to identify as the weave, if that's the right way of putting it.
Okay.
So maybe just using the one power or the true source in a way that possibly it shouldn't to create this safe, secretive space. And I had a few Harry Potter analogies from this one as well.
You already went to a portkey there. So.
Yeah, with portkey, or with the hidden room in Hogwarts. So
room of requirement, yeah.
So I definitely, but I felt it had something to do with the one source, just because of that blinding white light.
Right. Okay.
Cool. No.
Okay.
So, they could be changing it, which is quite interesting, right? So these are relics. The thing on the wall was a Terangral, which is kind of like this art. It's basically an artifact, right? Yeah. From the ages before. And when you channel it, stuff happens. Remember, we have been told dreaming holds power. Mm-hmm. Dreaming is, and there's a big, huge aspect I've talked about before. Dreams have a whole thing.
Yeah.
They met in the dreaming world. This is what this is. They weren't actually they stepped into the dreaming world to be together. They weren't on the real place. That's why it looked a slightly weirder color. It wasn't the same. And this is a whole thing of later on in the series and the books and everything, you'll start to discuss dreamwalkers and the Teleran Rehold, which is the dream world, and all this stuff. And it's how then, like, they can communicate and talk over great distance when they go asleep and they chat together and they meet. Or they can use these artifacts to channel into it and then automatically enter the dream world to be together, to chat and have to, like... And that's the thing. This is a huge part of some of the lore. And I'm wondering... Are they just kind of stepping that out and saying that, like I said, like you guys said, are they going to go more for it's a port key and it's bringing them from port A to port B? Essentially, like a bit more Harry Potter-ish. And that would make sense because there is a cultural understanding of that type of magic right now in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think, if now that you tell me that it's a dream world, I think it wouldn't have made sense for the writing of the scene. If there was any other option that they could use, they should have used it there, because what she's talking about to Moraine, what Siuan is talking about to Moraine, and part of this scene is, my dreams have been troubling me. The dreams that I've been having are troubling me. So if you're saying that she's in the dream world and talking about other dreams, that would be really complicated to get across on a TV show, whereas in a book you have, 5 or 10 pages.
It's very
to
meta
get that
as
across.
well.
It'd be really confusing in a TV show to try and explain they've gone into the dream world. So I could understand, but I wouldn't think they're going to take something from Harry Potter because it's popular in the world. I just mean in the universe of the books, if there's any other option here that they did actually travel to be physically in the same location, I could see that being the way that they would do for this scene, because it makes more sense. But
it is, but the plot hole that they build for new audiences is, well, if they have a device that can transport them across the world back to Siuan's original home, miles and miles away, why doesn't she use that?
No, so I didn't think it was about going to a physical space. Okay. So to me, I didn't view it as a waygate. As we see at the end here, where it's outside of time and space to travel. So I didn't see it as a traveling mechanism. I guess it's more like the room of requirement in that sense. And I'm using Harry Potter analogies because probably in my mind I'm going, well, J.K. Rowling took it from Wheel of Time or whatever. But it's just simply, I just assumed it was a safe place because ultimately this relationship that is shown here is effectively not permitted under the under the Aes Sedai because of who Siuan is, the Amyrlin Seat. So this isn't permitted ultimately. So this is a safe space for them to talk strategy around what they're doing. I mean, there's maybe a few subtle hints now that you've described it, Chris, that yes, she was dreaming in the sense that Lan does say, I will stand guard. So maybe because she is asleep and defenseless, but at the time, I just assumed it was because she was going through this artifact, to meet with Siuan, and because it's been 2 years, and they have a lot to discuss. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it as a traveling mechanism to get from one place to another. Okay. In that sense, but
okay, and I don't think it matters too much at the moment.
No,
I don't.
For me, it was a big thing because I was like, they need to explain this very soon because if they are going to keep elements of the dream world and what the dreams are and things like that, and I think it was just that. Oh, it would have been the perfect time to go. You could have started to lay the groundwork. I think they just, again, they have a lot, they've already did a lot of Basil exposition for the whole world and the political aspects of the Aja and everything in between. So I think adding an extra layer of, welcome to the dream world. What is a dream world? How you can enter the dream world? What is a Terran Grell? And all that fun and games could have been overload.
I think so. I think there's a lot to grab hold of in this season, irrespective of starting to take it into the dream world. And I think they have, they've signposted that importance by saying dreams have meaning, and the dreams of Rand, Mat, Perrin, Egwene with the Dark One. So there's been a lot of that, but I think to suddenly bring in, with 2 episodes left, a whole new set of
rules,
cultures, and so on around Dreamwalkers would be way too much, and it's and it would defocus the entire thing from effectively the story of getting to the final episode. And I think they have to balance that, as you say, the exposition with the story, and ultimately this is primarily book 1, so there's they've got to get somewhere pretty quick and do stuff in the next 2 episodes.
And I'll be honest, as a person who hasn't read the books, if you're telling me that scene took place in a dream world, I'm completely lost. I'm totally confused why they spent 8 hours in that place together, why they had sex, why there was so much intimacy between the two of them there, because that feels like they had a physical meetup for the first time in 2 years. So if you're telling me that it was a thing that took place in the dream world, I would be completely lost, as I kind of am right now. And I'm hoping that they'll come back to that in a different way in the future, when maybe they meet physically in a physical space, have sex, and go, this is the first time we've been physically intimate together in the real world outside the dream world. And that can be explained away in a line. It would still be confusing to me, because the purpose of this scene is to get them together, show that they're co-conspirators in a plan that none of the rest of the Aes Sedai know about, and to reveal their relationship and how secretive they are about it. I don't think it was to introduce the dream world and dreamwalkers and another form of magic almost to the world at this time.
Yeah, so they are physically together. They're physically entering the dream world, so that's going to confuse you even more. So anyway, look, let's move it beyond this. It was just a thing for me, and I think definitely we'll hear more about it. I think they'll be able to talk more about it in the future. And
I certainly would bring out the big points from that moment. It is also about Siuan saying that she's had dreams of the Dark One.
Yes.
She's giving the guidance that they need to go kill the Dark One in the eye of the world, where he's gathering his power but not strong enough yet to defend against any attack, let alone one that could be from one of the future dragons.
Yeah.
Learn about which one the dragon is on the way there, but get there as soon as possible. It's kind of the guidance she's giving.
And Moraine saying, you have to banish me because my leader of the Blue Asia is saying I need to stay here, and I can't to make sure that our plan works. So like that in that sense, I loved this whole meeting together. And again, it's also that human dimension to, I guess, the power, the leader, the Amyrlin Seat's got to be, straight backed, chest out, very regal in the Amyrlin Seat as the Amyrlin Seat. And yet here you see her with this intimate moment with Moraine, and you see Moraine relax as well. She, there is a slight here from Siuan in the White Tower saying, the noble woman, Moraine, and gives her a full title. This idea that she is reserved and secretive, maybe just naturally from her noble blood that she has. And here you see the two of them, actually almost the human face of it.
Well, yeah.
Of these two relaxed in one another's company.
Yeah.
So I thought this was just nice. I thought this was a really good way of putting the human side of the Amyrlin Seat as well as the flashback.
Yeah, but Siuan does still also tell the pufferfish to put back her spikes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like she's being all nice and kind to her and stepping back for her. They have that relationship. She'll tell her to stop and put the spikes back in because they have that relationship.
Yeah, it's a pet name.
Yeah, yeah. But interesting point that you mentioned there as well. Moraine working with Amyrlin Seat and telling Siuan what she needs from her to go against the direction that she's getting from her boss of the Blue Aes Sedai. It's kind of interesting. So Moraine's standing alone here. What we've been talking about throughout this whole episode as our introduction of the Aes Sedai is what is the similarities between those groupings of Aes Sedai, each of the 7 groups of them, what they're about, what their purpose is. Yet Moraine stands alone here. She's not a Blue Aes Sedai. She's a person who's brought up in the Blue Aes Sedai that's acting on her own along with the Amyrlin Seat and willing to go against her leader, effectively, to accomplish the plan. So that's also quite interesting about Moiraine's character.
Yeah, no, they were given this prophecy years ago, and they have been slowly working towards it.
And the only one that know about it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be we'll hear more about that. They're going to have to do a proper, because we start to see the ending of this truthfulness from Moiraine towards the end of this episode, at the very end of this episode, actually. Mm-hmm. She is more open to the potential Dragon Reborn recruits, to the Two Rivers folks. She starts to be, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And she starts to tell that truth. And again, we have to imagine that to a degree, the Two River folks in this story are proxies to the audience, in that they are learning everything as much as we are.
Yeah.
So I believe a lot of that information, like the prophecy and things like that, will come out more,
of course,
towards the end of this.
Yeah, I think probably in 80s movies, I think Moiraine would probably be described as a wild card who plays by her own rules. Like, 80s action movie equivalent.
But
of Moiraine.
Then Siuan is getting too old for this shit.
pretty much.
Exactly. It's kind of like Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
There's so many machinations, so much political activity going on in this scene that obviously does form such a big part of the episode. And because of how much is going on, I think we could talk about it for hours. And a lot more will be revealed as the episodes go on. You can't just have this kind of moment once in a series like this. So we will see more of it as we learn more about the Aes Sedai in future. But let's take that opportunity to move on to spoke number 2. Some smaller points for our other spokes for the episodes, but big scenes though. The freeing of Mat is our second spoke, where we have Moiraine learning that Mat's in the city and learning that Nynaeve has been trying to, I guess, feed him roots and vegetables and throw some flowers at him to try and to relieve this corruption from him, because she's really abusive almost to Nynaeve for hiding Mat away, hiding what's going on, and effectively saying, your title was wisdom when you're at the Two Rivers. You need to show some of that here, So a really interesting scene.
Yeah, I love this scene for a number of reasons. I think it's the concern of Rand because of his friend. He is assuming that Moiraine is about to come in here and gentle him effectively. Yeah. And in some respects she does. It's just not the one power. It's the darkness that was within Shador Logoth, and just that whole scene of her pulling it out of him. Mm-hmm. You get the more sense of the physical side of having to pull this out from Mat by Moiraine, compared to the gentling that you saw of Lagain Ablar, which was kind of like this wave, this sort of wings coming out of his chest, black wings. This is, you get the sense it is being dragged, kicking and screaming from within. Man, it was so cool, just that jerkiness where it's trying to hold on, but how it travels up and through the weave, to her mouth, which then she effectively, I guess, spits it down the weave through to the ruby gem in his dagger. I thought that was just really, really cool scene. And then her whole interaction with Nynaeve, where effectively, your pride would have killed him.
Yeah.
Start using a bit of wisdom, I thought was really good. So I loved all these 3 elements to this scene, even though it was quite brief, really. I didn't feel we spent an awful lot of time, because of the central element of the Amyrlin Seat and Moiraine, even though they did come in on it. But I loved those 3 elements here, with the freeing of Mat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and you're right. It's literally the reason they have, the reason they showed so much and spent so much time with the Amyrlin Seat and the Aes Sedai is because we're not going to be there for a while. We'll jump back and forth, but we'll be with our main characters. So let's give you some additional world building, and now next 2 episodes are your main characters non-stop. 100% Dragon Reborn. The freeing of Mat was cool.
Yeah.
I liked how they first of all, how they showed the black ink and the taint of Shadar Logoth coming out, and the explanation of the dagger, because we knew Matt had taken it, but I think a lot of people, we had seen that the taint was coming in and out of him, but that it just wanted to escape, and like we got a bit more of that. So it looked visually spectacular, and again that showing of the control of the one power, the magic aspect being pulled from Matt like this, and just putting it, trying to crawl over, trying to crawl into Moraine's mouth.
Yeah, it was
and then it just being pushed back into the dagger.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting about the scene is, part of the kind of twist you were seeing on Matt throughout the season was maybe he's the dragon because he's being corrupted by this power. Maybe that's coming out in him. Maybe he's evil. And they've taken that away, but Moraine adds to his, I suppose, lore as well. She says he couldn't possibly have held on for this long unless he was truly powerful. So while they have taken away, it wasn't what we'd seen, the control that we were seeing over the last few episodes. That wasn't the Dragon Reborn. But hang on a second, don't worry. There's still something else. He's still got some power in him. Yeah. Just like we hear about Rand, just like we hear about Nynaeve, just like we hear about Perrin. All of them have a form of power within them still. So definitely. I thought that was good that at least we get that corrected by Moraine here, that she still says he's very powerful. Nobody else could survive this.
Yeah, he would have been consumed by this darkness. So he's much stronger. The other thing I like about the Moraine in the city of Tar Valon, you do get the sense of her spy network a bit more here, both herself doing that with Lan to find Nynaeve, effectively sneaking in to try and help Matt and bring him back to health, but also with the arrival of Perrin and Egwene into the city after escaping the White Cloaks. Again, where she is, as you say, finds out about his golden yellow eyes, his beautiful golden yellow eyes, of Perrin and the wolves. Yeah. So again, having to warn Egwene, don't say anything, because there are some people in this city that would see that as reason enough, to bring him harm. So, some nice little, sort of curveballs here around two of these characters and the extent to, their claim on being the Dragon Reborn as well.
Yeah. Yeah. To make one final Game of Thrones comparison, I was a little bit disappointed with Moraine's spy network in the city, because she told Nynaeve last episode, I will tell you the instant that Rand and Matt come into this city, because I have spies everywhere. I'll know instantly. They've been there for about 4 or 5 days and she doesn't know until she goes out and gets them. And then, Egwene and Perrin are in the Houses of Healing, with the Yellow Aes Sedai, and they've been there overnight, and, she's told by her spy they've been here for at least a day. And I was kind of going, in Game of Thrones, when they wanted information, they had it before, like, a phone call would have gotten it to them. They have it instantly in that universe. They know exactly what's going on in all corners of the world.
Well, that's
where
true.
Moraine's like in her own city going, I have my spies everywhere, and it takes them 3 or 4 days to get information to her. So maybe that's just the disappointment, and maybe that was just the economy of writing Game of Thrones that had people knowing things they couldn't possibly know about. And Moraine's probably a bit more realistic that it would take a few days to spread through a whole city.
Yes, exactly.
I would say so.
That was all.
Certainly a busy city that have all come out to see Lagaine being sort of paraded through the streets. Plus, she doesn't have her little sparrows. So, yes,
exactly. So that was my only thing.
She hasn't been there for 2 years. That's the other one. So maybe all the spies thought they've already gotten a second job. So they're not really kind of done much.
Maybe that's it.
Too busy selling sort of oranges and coconuts.
Yeah, or maybe she's just making herself sound more important than she actually is in a city she hasn't been to in years. As she said herself, as she said herself, her home is on the back of a horse with her cloak and the grumpy guy sitting beside her. That's her home now. So maybe that was the touch of it. But no, don't mean anything by it. I simply just meant I thought it was funny that she was saying, I'll know the instant people arrive, and it's taking days to get that information to her. That's kind of it on spoke number 2, I think, for freeing Matt. Let's get on to our final spoke of the episode, the Waygate to the Eye of the World. So, Chris, I guess you can take this one because this is probably the name of the first book is The Eye of the World. This is a big moment for the series so far. This is the journey that the whole team are going on. Anything you want to add to the final moment from the episode, our final spoke for the episode?
This is where there's a vast departure from the books. And this is why I am 100% down for this. They are telling their own story in that Matt does not go with them. And this is very interesting because I don't know what they're setting up or what way they're doing this. Because it is only the Waygates. I'm not going to spoil anything. It's just essentially we're told that it was a way to travel, but it is tainted and evil. We see Moraine open it with the one power. Matt doesn't have the one power that we know of. So how is he going to follow? He potentially is not. So it's this very interesting of where they are taking the story because we see everyone runs, everyone meets. We basically, Moraine thanks Loyal as a builder for showing them where this Waygate is. And it's very interesting. I am excited for episode 7.
For the TV show watchers here, Chris, could you explain that a little bit? So I know Loyal was brought in last episode. There were some complaints from some of our listeners about how small he was used in the show. He kind of introduced. We talked about it on our episode that they should have spent a bit more time with him. They nailed a few tick boxes of the character and introduced him in a very short amount of time. And here we have Moraine thanking him as a builder for showing them the gate. Do you know? Can you give any kind of?
Yes, I can. 100% yes, I can. So, the Ogier are the builders. They are known for building some of the greatest architecture of the old ages in those worlds of the Wheel of Time. And part of that is they built these waygates, these powerful artifacts that allow for very quick traveling across the world. Okay. And as part of being the builders, they are aware of where these waygates are. And they especially when we get to some of the other cities that are so glistening as well. Like the tower was built by the Ogier, the builders. Right. That is why. Like it is so beautiful and huge and spectacular. Same with some of the other major cities. And the reason they kind of did jump it, which is the reason Moraine asks him for his help is because he knows where these waygates are. And he knows, to be fair as well, also, think of this as a kind of a series of tunnels, point A to point B, and navigating. But there's also these windy elements as well, where you can get lost and travel for years, but to know where to exit in A and exit at C, and not get lost, and to know where to come in and out of, you need someone who can basically navigate the ways.
Yeah. So that's more to it. It's navigating the ways once they're in the Waygate. I mean, the Waygate is in the middle of a field. So like that, you saw the volcano, Dragon Mount, behind it. So, he's needed to help navigate through there because of, I guess the complexity of it. Yeah. And also normally around where the, Ogiers are from, which are steadings, which is effectively, woods, and so on. And, they're
magical woods.
Yeah, magical woods. And that's why we kind of mentioned about them being like Treebeard and that sense. And there are, in a sense, as a culture within this world, they're a bit on the wane, actually. They're not seen as important as they used to be by the majority of like people living in this world.
Well, if they're being seen and thought of as if they're Trollocs and being hunted down by people, I can understand why they'd be on the wane as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And as part of that, they also live for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we heard this from Loyal in the previous episode, where he's like, you humans are so rushed and so impulsive. Their whole thing is they again, very much Treebeard-esque in that, why must everything be so fast? And they don't speak with that cadence. They speak quite normally, but a bit slower, because their lifespans are hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, as you say, is Matt doesn't go through the way gate. And in some respects, I kind of agree with him. It looked pretty dark and evil looking, and there is potentially something in that as well.
Well, yeah.
For the next episode and how they travel through this way gate to their destination. Looking at that, I'd be kind of in Matt's kind of ballpark, really. I'd be like, as you've just kind of kissed your horses goodbye, I'll take them, and then I can sell them, I can get rich. Possibly, it's what he's going to do. Is he going back to the Two Rivers, or will, maybe the start of next episode, there'll just be this hand of Rand sort of coming out through what's remaining of the portal, and he'll be pulled through. I mean, I hope he joins them. I really do, to be honest.
He's miles away. That was the bit I was like, he's not like he's...
I know.
That's what I thought they might do, which is he stands right at the threshold, goes, oh, I don't know what to do, and it fades to black, and you're like, oh my god, he didn't get in, and then lastminute.com, Rand pulls them through. That's not... He's not that close for that to happen. Not. So I really don't know where they're taking this. And this is why I'm so interested, because it's a departure from the books. It's a departure in terms of what stories and how they're condensing. And I'm here for each of these choices that they're making, because I'm like, I'm here for this change, because I'm interested to see what they can do here. Yeah. Are they going to forge their own path in terms of some story? Are they actually going to create new story elements as part of this adaptation? Or what will they do is just jump Matt from point A in this storyline to book 3 and put him straight into some other kind of other well-known beats from that story? See,
all I was thinking was, well, Moraine opened the gate. Surely she can just open back up the gate and go get in here.
But that could happen too.
Just as simple as that. But throughout the series so far, Matt's journey has been, he's been forced on this journey, doesn't want to go on it, he wants to be back with his sisters, so he has pushed the whole time. It wasn't to do with the corruption of that knife that was telling him to fight against this. It was that he was saying, if I turn bad and I'm the dragon, kill me. He doesn't want to go on this journey at all. Yeah. He wants to get himself back to his small village and back and taking care of his sisters. He doesn't want to be the epic hero that goes on this journey. So very different in Wheel of Time. The hero's journey is usually you pick up Arthur picks up the sword and becomes the King of England. That's the kind of the journey that these kind of characters go on. It is very rarely that this far into the story, there's 5 people that still don't know their purpose and are still going on the journey. So there's nobody here that's being told for definite, you are the hero of this story. They're almost being told, when we find the hero, the rest of you are dead because you're useless to us. So, but we'll take you along for the journey until you do die, basically.
Well, you have that nice moment where Moraine, uses the liberal interpretation of their oaths again, because we see the conversation between her and the Amyrlin Seat that anyone that gets in the way of the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn will die. And when asked that, well, what will happen to us by Egwene at the portal gate, she says, no, we don't know for sure what will happen.
Yeah.
So again, I just wondered if there was any meaning in Egwene asking that and the response of Moraine to her, given the scene in the woods earlier on in the season where Moraine is taking her through those oaths and how language is precise and so on. Just in terms of Egwene as well, just as to how she is developing, because the really nice bit in this, which made me chuckle, was when the Amyrlin Seat says, when she's been introduced to Egwene and Nynaeve by Moraine, she says, being introduced to one of the most powerful channelers that we have seen in a long, long time. And there is Egwene thinking it's her. She's kind of like, puffing out her chest and shoulders back, ready to get all the lords, the lording from the Amyrlin Seat. And then immediately it's Nynaeve because of the last episode and her use of that power. So Egwene got a little bit deflated here. So I really enjoyed those moments here with Egwene as well in this episode. They were kind of small, but I feel it's working towards who she will be with her use of the one source.
Right.
Yeah, there is only one dragon reborn, but there are other special people.
Well, yes, like we even hear in this episode again. I like the guidance that they're giving on this. They're saying the prophecy is 3,000 years old, that it's been interpreted and reinterpreted multiple times, and there's still a possibility that there could be a 5-headed dragon, five potential dragons that could make up the one dragon. We don't know whether it's man or woman. We don't know what form the dragon reborn will take. It could take any form and could have split itself into these 5 kids, effectively. So,
exactly.
So we still don't have any clues for the detectives amongst us as to which one is going to be the dragon, because every one of them has something within them that could possibly lead them to be the dragon.
Yeah, and we get that reference back to the Taveran as well in this episode of these companions from the 2 rivers being Taveran as well.
Oh, right. Okay, that's a word I still don't understand.
I'm not entirely sure of it either.
Yes, it is Taveran. Taveran. E-H-N. So that's how they pronounce it. Taveran.
We can change if we've got it wrong. We can change it.
It's Taveran.
Yeah, Taveran.
E-H-N. So Taveran. I was sidestepping that. That was what I forgot they had actually said. This is what they are alluding to. The Taveran are individuals who warp the weave around them. We talk about the wheel of time and how the wheel weaves and spins people up, and it is just a tapestry of time and space. Taveran warp the weave weaves around them. They are so important. So no matter who is the Dragon Reborn, and no matter how the Dragon Reborn is, these other people will not just die. Mm-hmm. Like, they are so important. And I was so happy to see all this stuff. Every now and again, I'm just like, I get to see this live action. It's amazing.
Well, on that note, does anybody have any notes for the episode?
I just have one. It's kind of the holy or the sacred artifact or the sacred rod. And again, a bit of another Harry Potter, a bit like the unbreakable bond from Harry Potter, where the banishment is done and promised. Siuan says, fealty must be sworn on the sacred rod. I did keep thinking of the inanimate carbon rod from The Simpsons, but I loved how the weave worked its way in from the Amyrlin Seat and then back out towards Moraine as she, promises to uphold and swear fealty to the decision of the Amyrlin Seat on this banishment.
And once again, showing Moraine is not the only one that knows how to use their words, because the Amyrlin Seat says, until I allow you back. And we know they have a relationship, so that's not that much of a banishment.
That's tomorrow!
It's like, right, okay, I've thought about it, I've had a good sleep, and you can come back in today if you'd like to. Yeah.
And again, that's what I talked about, Tarangar. That's an artifact. It's the Oath Rod. We heard about this all the way back in, I think, episode 2 or 3, where you hear Moraine explain that they swear their oaths using the one power. So this is the sacred rod, the rod that binds them to those oaths. It is an artifact of the one power, and it kind of just pulls them in.
Which is really interesting because we see the reaction from Moiraine when being asked to swear this on the rod. She is acting for her sisters in the Aes Sedai, showing that she wasn't expected to have to be bound by this, I think. That's the way it comes across anyway. She wasn't expecting that the Amyrlin Seat would make her swear on the same rod to this oath that she won't return without being brought back. I do wonder, though, if somebody else takes on the Amyrlin Seat, does that completely scupper the plans that they have? If somebody overthrows the current Amyrlin Seat and takes on that seat, they don't have the same arrangement to allow Moiraine back in then, obviously. So I wonder, will those political machinations continue to play out as the Reds try and take her seat from her?
It would be early,
Only
though.
time will tell.
Yeah. I feel that would be quite early for me at the moment, but it could just all be the political machinations could be sped up. Absolutely.
It depends on how the wheel spins, I guess.
Well, that's the other thing as well. And my only other note are two moments, because we get the famous the wheel weaves as the wheel wills from Moiraine as she enters into the Waygate. And this idea that it's a fate element of you are carried along in the river, as we've seen with all these different references, such as with Egwene in the river at her initiation. But at the same time, as Nynaeve and Egwene meet the Amyrlin Seat, it's to the point of the ta'veren again. She says the only thing that matters now is what you now do. I.e. that that their will of what they do or what choice they make can affect the weave and the will of the wheel, I guess.
Okay.
So that's the other interesting element here, given that there is the suspicion between Moiraine and the Amyrlin Seat that of the ta'veren, and that they could also be possibly ta'veren.
Yep. So. The final note from me is just a very quick one, which is, so far, only Moiraine and Lan have seen the three boys. None of the other Aes Sedai are aware right now of
that's
the
true.
potential Dragon Reborns, who they are. We know the Dark Friends are after them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we know the Dark Friends have their description.
Yeah.
And what they potentially look like and talk like, and they've seen visions of these Two Rivers folks.
Yeah.
But the other Aes Sedai don't know. So
that was the interesting thing I thought, was that that Moiraine as well only brought Egwene and Nynaeve to see the Amyrlin Seat.
Yeah. And into the temple overall. So there was only the two of them brought in to get a little history lesson on who the Aes Sedai are, and then go and meet the Amyrlin Seat. So.
I guess in fairness, Perrin was flat out on a bed trying to recover, as kind of was Matt, really. But I reckon Rand must feel pretty left out, to be honest.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
He's got nothing.
Yeah.
Except his ginger locks.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's an ale, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's a really good catch, Chris. I'm sure that makes lots of sense why it would only be the two of them brought into the tower and brought into the Aes Sedai. Excellent. That's it. I think we have spoken. We have talked about all of our spokes for the episode. Chris, did you enjoy this episode of Wheel of Time?
I did. I really did. This show gets better for me each week. As I said, it's taking some, what I consider sometimes odd choices, like not explaining certain pieces, but my assumption is that it will come later. Otherwise, they're just shorthanded at some point. Every now and again, I just remind myself, they're adapting. This is their interpretation, their adaptation of this 13-book series. So they're not going to be able to spend the luxury of explaining the ins and outs of using a power and entering the dream world and blah, blah, blah. But then also, they're going to be able to do what they did here, which is divert dramatically, potentially, from the books and I'm here for that, because then that adds a huge element of, okay, there's a whole storyline now that I do not know what's going to happen. Whereas pretty much I knew some of the steps and what they're taking throughout this first 6 episodes. But now, there's a whole storyline now. Like, I don't know where Matt's going and what he's going to do. So I'm willing to see. And yeah, let's wait and see.
Excellent stuff. How about yourself, John? Did you enjoy this episode of Wheel of Time?
Yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. I give it 4.5 fishing trips out of 5. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The whole Amyrlin Seat being introduced here, the ins and outs of the White Tower and the Aes Sedai, I just thought was really nicely done. I mean, it was, again, with the flashback, with this sort of dream sequence or safe hidden space, whatever it may turn out to be. I thought that was really nice, really intimate, and you kind of got a sense of who Moiraine actually was, and you got a sense of who the Amyrlin Seat was as well, along with the flashback. And I think that was just so well done. I loved everything around, Nynaeve being a bit aggressive, still uppity, kind of needs a bit of a chill pill. I like her being just sort of taken down a peg or two as well. I mean, I love Nynaeve. I love her feistiness, but I think, the riposte of Moiraine to her is absolutely deserved and brilliant. In the same way as with the Amyrlin Seat when she's introduced, where she's pretty aggressive and it's kind of stood up to a bit. But you understand Nynaeve because she's trying to protect, effectively people who are 5 years younger than her, in Egwene, Rand, Perrin, and Matt. So, I just loved all this interaction between these strong women as well, and how that really enhances the storyline. Matt's having the darkness ripped out of him, awesome. Loved that. The dagger, so iconic. So can't wait to see that, and how that plays out. And of course, being left with the Waygate and something looking pretty dark and nasty in there. You kind of don't really think that Loyal, his kind, would possibly create it quite like that, potentially. And Matt's reluctance to join his companions, and therein being the big change from book 1. So this was really intriguing, and I'm looking forward, as I say, pretty much standardly now with these podcasts on the Wheel of Time to the next episode. I think they're doing a really, really great job, and I'm really interested to see how they go. So yeah, 4.5 fishing trips out of 5. So yeah, I really did enjoy this episode of Wheel of Time. Yeah, excellent.
Me too. Really enjoyed this. I love the opening up of the world. The what we talked about last week was opening up of the ceremonies and how they deal with death, and how they're going through all that kind of side of things. This time, this is opening up the world in a bigger way for me. What we have here with the Aes Sedai specifically, and how they're dealing with each other. This feels more like something you can play on for a few seasons rather than just the hero's journey. So this is why this episode was important. Only 2 more episodes left, so a good time to have that broadening of the world and broadening of what's going on in at least that side of society. So really enjoyed it, and love the acting in this show as well. The casting has been fantastic, and everybody's really fits into the world properly here. So definitely great episode. Looking forward to being back next week with episode 7. With that, I think we need to wet the whistle and go to an inn or a tavern. John, do you want to lead us there?
Yes, I think we need to rechristen this whilst we're still at an early stage, I guess, with 8 seasons left to go. And Wheel of Time inn quiz. I think we missed a trick here. It should be a tavern quiz, because then I can go fellow quizzes, fellow wheelies, but fellow taverners. Maybe you also influence the weave of the one power in order to get the right answers, I guess.
Well,
is that cheating? I don't know.
Please don't use the weave to get your answers picked by us.
Well, the weave is Amazon Prime. You just have to watch the show again, I guess. Yeah, and fast forward. Is that the weave? I don't know. But we are still at the Queen's Blessing, of course, for this episode. And so, fellow quizzers, wheelies, question 6 for episode 6. What is the name of the town where Liandrin keeps her secret relationship hidden?
Ooh, you then will have the knowledge that could take down Liandrin. I like it.
Indeed.
I think it's very good.
Indeed, you could.
If you've missed any of the questions that we've given out in our Wheel of Time in quiz, as it's still being called, just because I have to update all of our artwork if I change it to Tavern Quiz. Just go to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. You'll see a link there for all the questions for the Wheel of Time pub quiz. Get all of your answers into us by the end of the year. Should have 8 questions and 8 answers into us by then, and you'll have the opportunity of winning some Wheel of Time goodies. John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Certainly. Question 6. What is the name of the town where Liandrin keeps her secret relationship hidden? And of course, we will be back with our question 7 next week. And remember to bring some bar snacks next time. Pork scratchings, pickled eggs, pickled walnuts. Those kind of, I guess, tavern-y type of bar snacks that you would kind of have.
It feels like you're asking Chris to bring the bar snacks.
I am.
That's why I was kind of like, I can do that. I can bring bar snacks.
And of course, you can email us with your answers to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, along with all of your feedback on the episodes of Wheel of Time. Let's get into some of that feedback for this episode. Yes, on to the Chrisless feedback section of our Wheel of Time podcast. Yes. First up, let's get some emails in from our wonderful fellow wheelies.
Yes.
Victor Von Doom has some feedback on episode 5.
Yes, Victor says, "Greetings, wheelies. I'm late to the party, so I binge watched episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. After viewing episode 5, I all but lost my Christmas spirit. What a downer. I had to watch Hawkeye again just to get over the massive but understandable grief in this episode. The acting was so good, I empathized with the characters. I have not read the book, so forgive me if I butcher some names. The dudes of the light really annoy me. Don't they have better things to do than hunt women and bully pacifists? I cheered when they were attacked by wolves. Question. Are the Tinkers werewolves? I'm totally hooked on this series and will add the books to my reading list. I look forward to your insights and wheelies feedback. Happy holidays and roll on, Victor Von Doom." Thank you so much, Victor, for the feedback. In terms of whether the Tinkers are werewolves or not, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But certainly I think they are able to recognize these things in people, possibly much more than others. I don't really know, to be honest. So I'm with you ultimately on this. Yeah. They could be, they may also not be. But I'm definitely with you around the dudes of the light, the white cloaks, for sure.
Yeah.
They are a bit of an annoyance.
Yes, Victor. So the answer to your question of are the Tinkers werewolves? None of us know, but you're asking the right question, I think, is basically what the show wants you to ask, is if they are werewolves, if they are controlling wolves, something like that. But we'll find out more either this season or next season at this stage, because we've only got 2 more episodes left. Thanks for your email at episode 5, Victor. Victor also shared his thoughts on episode 6.
Yes, Victor for episode 6 says, "Greetings, wheelies. This series becomes more captivating with each episode. I'm a big Rosamund Pike fan, and she is killing it. The assembly in the Hall of the White Tower was most impressive. The banishment of Moraine calls back to the Klingon discommendation of Worf. I see Sophie Okonedo has come a long way since her appearance in Ace Ventura 2. Indeed, the contention between the Aes Sedai factions reminds me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the blue as S.H.I.E.L.D. and the red as Hydra. Moraine rivals Nick Fury when it comes to secrecy. Now we know why Lan ain't getting any from Moraine. Perhaps he should pursue Nynaeve's advances. Matt is certainly a problem child. Not surprised he stayed behind. Looking forward to more of this series and TVPI podcasts. Happy holidays and roll on wheelies, Victor Von Doom. Again, big thank you, Victor. Yes, I remember her from Ace Ventura 2, and I do kind of like Ace Ventura. It is a little soft spot in my heart, and
pretty much anything that stars Jim Carrey you like, and I'm not a big fan of. Yeah.
Yes. Well, what is not to like? I love the scene in Ace Ventura, and tying into the Star Trek stuff that you mentioned as well, Victor, where Ace Ventura does the impression of Scotty in the drained swimming pool. Really, really funny for me.
I think I've seen Ace Ventura 2 once about, how many years ago did it come out? 30 years ago? So I do not remember anything from that film at all. I just about remember Ace Ventura 1. But interesting connection there that you've made, Victor, to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. Yeah, I can see that. They're definitely, the Aes Sedai definitely lining up like Hydra. They're making the right circle, I suppose, like Hydra would, certainly in the comic books. As for whether Lan should wait around for Moraine or not, or should he go after Nynaeve? There is a bigger connection between the two of them than him just waiting around to have a relationship with Moraine. They need to set up these kind of relationships on a show when it's going to be going over multiple seasons. So hey, that's the way they set these things up, isn't it?
Yeah. I hope so. I hope he does, because I think that could be a blossoming couple.
Yeah,
but I guess ultimately, what will get in the way there is the bond of between him and Moraine, because that seems to be almost like a life promise or something like that. So
it's more than a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
More than a friendship or a
like symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if Nynaeve and Lan do, they also get Moraine in on the bargain as well.
Maybe. Thanks, Victor. Our next email comes in from Coffee and Vodka, who shared his thoughts on episode 6. He says, "Greetings, shunned travellers. 6 episodes of necessary precursor down, 2 episodes of adventure to come. This one full of all the tangible intangibles: love, regret, sacrifice, healing, courage, and finally fear. Not sure how they'll manage to Captain Planet their way to victory at 4/5 capacity, if they are all parts of a whole, but an excellent element to the tension. Finally, loved the look on Leandrin's face as she realised Moraine had, in the end, called all the shots. Looking forward to the conversation. 5 doormats out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka." Oh, poor Matt. Standing outside the door. That doesn't make him a doormat.
He does.
Good job. Coffee
Excellent
and
stuff, Coffee and Vodka. My goodness. Really good stuff. I think you really summed up episode 6 incredibly well here. And I'm with you there on Leandrin's face as well. Love that scene, seeing her sort of, at least all the interactions between Leandrin and Moraine just feel so manipulative, and then seeing that all the shots were called by Moraine, and also that Moraine knows her own particular little secret tucked away in a far off town was just really, really cool.
Yeah, it was a real kind of hand to face shut up as she walks by, like, you have no hold over me anymore, to Leandrin. Very cool. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Let's head on over to Facebook to get some Facebook feedback. First up, Doug Green says, "I wasn't expecting the exile scene to be that heartbreaking. Everyone turning their backs on Moraine was hard to watch." Yeah. We didn't really mention it in the discussion of the episode, but it is a beautifully shot scene. I love just the ceremony of it, as if, they learn this as part of their training. When someone is kicked out of the order, everybody must turn their back on them and shun them and never speaks to them again. I just think it's a really beautifully shot scene, but really affecting. Like, it's really effective as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Dr. Bob Phillips says, "Eek, Matt is lost and the Oja is found and the bond has been loosed, and it turns out Leandrin has a fancy man, and those were just the extras. What a set of unexpected turns and twists. And the oath not to return until called by her love was everything I'd come to expect of the Lady Moraine. Politician and perfectly poised." Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I think to Doug's point as well, just that whole, exile and banishment scene was incredibly dignified and heart-wrenching at the same time. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Deanna Brian Maskell says, loved this episode so much. 5 Aes Sedai oath rods out of 5. What a powerful story continues to unfold. The cold open was amazing, so rich and layered, and a great introduction to the Amyrlin Seat. This whole episode drew me into Siuan's story. Such rich detail from childhood to her relationship with Moiraine to her encounter with Logain to Moraine's banishment. Have to give so much credit to the casting for this show. Love the diversity of representation, but the acting talent is over the top. Too many great moments, both big and small, to call them all out. Take that, doubters. The cinematography is just wonderful. Some truly gorgeous shots I'd love to own as artwork. Every damned episode. Still thinking about this line and how much Jordan's world echoes our own. Our laws don't exist to protect our lives, our comforts. They exist to protect our people from us. If only our own leaders and protectors followed such a rule. Leandrin is such a snake. Every time I think I can't hate her more, she hands someone her beer. The final scenes from Banishment to Matt's Choice were just epic in an episode already overfull of emotion and surprises. Moiraine playing a deep and dangerous game, masking Bond, and taking our core group through the ways on a dangerous mission.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, Deanna.
Thank you so much, Deanna. I totally agree with you on all of this, and I think you're right. Take that, doubters. I think it's just so beautifully shot,
isn't it?
Acted,
yeah.
The detail, just the use and choices of the cast.
Absolutely.
And behind the camera as to what they're doing are really, really good.
Yeah, like up to episode 6, we've been watching them with screeners that we get, and so we're watching them on a computer monitor effectively, and then it comes out on Friday on Amazon Prime, so we get to watch it in 4K before we do this feedback section effectively, and it just looks so beautiful. You mentioned, Deanna, that opening scene, the opening moments with Siuan, that as the camera pans into their home, it is absolutely beautiful. Just stunning locations and beautifully shot.
But the other thing as well is you have this location of her home next to the river in this wooded but deep canyon with the river. And, you know, the shot along there and in the background is the spire of a city, of a close by city.
Yeah.
And it's just that little touch of detail. Really, really good.
Yeah. Gorgeous show. Every penny that they spent on it is clear on the screen.
Thank you so much, Deanna. Also, Jamie Lawson says, evil enchanted weapon is never a good thing.
That's true.
Last week we saw a Klingon funeral. This week, a Klingon discommendation ceremony. Yes, we are going boldly where no one has gone before.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that both Jamie and Victor Von Du both picked up the fact that this is similar to Worf's banishment from the Klingon Empire in Star Trek. I think it was in Next Generation. It might have been DS9. I can't remember which show he got banished on, but I think it might have been Next Generation. But that's really interesting that both of them picked up on that.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up.
No, I didn't either.
I just thought it was a beautifully shot scene here in this show. But really interesting. I haven't seen that in a couple of years. It might be good to go back and look at that. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Oh, and Jamie also mentioning that's his D&D connection for this week. An evil enchanted weapon is never a good thing in D&D, and not here in Wheel of Time either. Good stuff. We have a final piece of feedback from Steve Brown. He sent a voicemail in about this episode. He did send a note along with it saying he said he loved the end of the episode. Looking forward to the rest of the series. Let's hear what he has to say about episode 6.
Hey, TV Podcast Industries. This is Steve, and it's Thursday night here in the States, but Wheel of Time, the next episode, it's out and available, so I'm going to watch it. The Flame of Tar Valon. Yeah. Oh, this is a flashback to Nynaeve as a child. Is she going to give her father a hand? So she unraveled the knots. She didn't give him a hand. The Flame of Tar Valon. She just said the name of the episode. Mic drop. Oh, okay, that wasn't Nynaeve. That was this, whoever they call the high Aes Sedai. So that's because she's got the tattoos on her chest. Ooh, more powerful than even you, mother. Ew, that's a dig. Oh, so she recognizes that the dagger came from the Shadow Town City thing. So Rand could see the darkness she was pulling out of Matt? Okay, so Perrin and Ingwin, is that her name, have made it to the tower, and the blue Aes Sedai is not telling her that the others are already here. Oh, and the plot thickens, so Moraine and the Amyrlin Seat, is that how you say it? The head Aes Sedai are in a relationship? Again, we have this mention of the Dark One, which we still don't know who that is, right? Oh, this red Leandra, she's a snake. That's kind of funny. The Sunshine, what's her name? Waits for only one woman, and it's not you. And Moraine knows that she's the woman. This oath, wow. And she's saying the same words back that Siuan Sanche's father said to her. Oh, it's just heartbreaking. Oh.
Thanks so much for your thoughts there, Steve. That's interesting, actually. I didn't realize that Moraine says the same words back to Siuan that her father said to her.
I think I recognized that there were elements from what her father said as she went off to Tar Valon as a kid, with this speech from Moraine back to the Amyrlin Seat. So I definitely recognize that there were similarities, but yeah, that's a really good spot that it's repeating those words back to her, that meaning sort of built up in this whole thing. And isn't that what's quite nice about this scene, is that it is so public, this public exile and banishment, yet there's an intimacy between Moraine and the Amyrlin Seat, Swan, whilst it's going on, which is really, really nice.
Do you know what I love as well about Steve's live Steving as well, is that as he goes through the episode, you can tell that the episode is clarifying points that he may have had at the beginning of the episode. I love that, because that's exactly it. This show is quite complex, so when you're watching it, you think something is going to happen, and then it changes it on its head a couple of seconds later. You know,
absolutely, because I'm totally with Steve in that I thought it was a flashback to Nynaeve as well.
Yes,
at the start, until you see the tattoos on the Amyrlin Seat, and you realise it's the Amyrlin Seat.
Exactly.
So definitely, yeah.
Good way to build out the world. Oh, and also just to mention, Steve, just so you know, the show comes out at 12 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, UK time, effectively every week. So I think that means in the US it comes out about 8 p.m. at the earliest. I think there's some
on Thursday,
Thursday nights. Yeah, there's some places in the US that are 4 or 5 hours behind the UK, so they get it really early. It might even be 7 p.m. on the East Coast, actually. But check it out. Yeah, it comes out on Thursdays in the US, despite the advertising. So, so you get to see a little bit early.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the feedback, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Hopefully we'll hear from you next week about the penultimate episode of the season.
Yes, and thank you, fellow wheelies, for all your feedback for this episode. Great stuff. Keep it coming in.
Again, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. You can also go over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. You can find us on Twitter at TV Pod Industries, or on Instagram at TV Podcast Industries. We'd love to hear your thoughts as the show comes to an end in a couple of weeks' time. We will be back with episode 7 of The Wheel of Time, The Dark Along the Ways, next week.
Ooh, spooky.
This episode is the last of the 6 episodes we were given for review from Amazon Prime. Our podcast is being released on Saturdays, 5 p.m. GMT, but from next week we'll have to watch it on Friday, record on Friday night, and hopefully, crossing fingers, I'll still be able to get the episode out at 5 p.m. GMT. But if it is delayed, that's the reason. It's only for those last 2 episodes.
It will be dark along the ways of podcast editing, it sounds.
Certainly will. It certainly will. I may not get any sleep on Friday night. But
it's okay. You don't need sleep. It's fine. It's fine.
But episode 8 does come out on Christmas Eve, so I can't commit to getting that podcast out on Christmas Day. We will be delayed with our final podcast, but that gives enough time for all of our fellow wheelies to get their feedback in for the entirety of season 1 when we do our final podcast on Wheel of Time, episode 8.
Yes, we'll be taking a short hiatus, small break, for a wee celebration of the Yuletide, mistletoe infused, rum-based, everything else, holiday-based. We'll be taking a small, well-deserved break.
And of course, we will also be covering Marvel's Hawkeye for the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Running into the closing of the year. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
See you soon, folks.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow wheelies, for joining us. Remember, there are no beginnings or endings, but this is the end of the podcast. And what only matters is what you do now. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep wheeling. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.